Welcome back to Global Lens. U.S. President Donald Trump has said that he will impose 35% tariffs on Canadian goods from the 1st of August. He threatened to increase the tariffs further if Canada decides to retaliate. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, who is facing pressure to secure a fair deal, said the government will continue to defend its workers and businesses as the new deadline for a trade deal approaches. As of 2024, Canada is the second largest trading partner of America. Total goods trade stood at over $760 billion last year. Washington's deficit was at $62 billion. At the end of 2024, Canada's FDI in US represented more than half of its total holdings abroad. But Trump's tariff tirade has forced Canada to stitch up new alliances or renew old ones. Last month, India and Canada agreed to reset ties after Prime Minister Modi met Mark Carney on the sidelines of the G7 meeting in Alberta. Both sides agreed to revive trade talks after a 2-year hiatus. Bilateral ties had hit an all-time low over a row over the killing of Khalistani leader Hardeep Singh Nijjar. A trade agreement with India will not just lower trade barriers and boost investor confidence, it would also complement Canada's Indo-Pacific strategy. Amid these trade tensions between US and Canada, how will Canadian businesses be impacted? Also, the road ahead for the India-Canada trade deal. To discuss all of this, we are now joined by Goldy Hyder, President and CEO of the Business Council of Canada. Mr. Hyder, thank you very much for being with us. Let me straight away ask you about 35% tariff being imposed by the Trump administration on Canada. How is this going to immediately impact Canadian businesses?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's good to be with you. It's good to be here in India again for the reasons that you have cited. Look, free trade is no longer free. It is quite clear that there's going to be a price of entry into the U.S. market. Many countries have already begun the discussions and negotiations and some have landed those, such as the United Kingdom being one. I know India is deep into its relationships. We're doing the same thing in Canada, and every country has a fiduciary duty to get the best deal that it possibly can for its citizen. Canada, your setup already alluded to the importance of the Canadian resources and our role that we play in the American economy, so that should not be lost on anyone. But it's quite clear that the president is emboldened by the fact that these tariffs have not had some of the negative impact that has been forecasted, whether it be in inflation, whether it be in slowing down of an economy. Clearly, they're achieving their objective of bringing their dollar down. And so I think he feels a bit emboldened. We're making sure that we're focused on the things that matter. One is, how do we remove or reduce dramatically the tariffs that have been imposed on steel, aluminum, and auto, as an example, while still trying to keep alive the hope that we can renegotiate, not even renegotiate, let me be even more specific, review and renew the USMCA, which is scheduled to be occurring next year, bring that forward so we can bring stability with a trade agreement, not just to Canada and the United States, but North America more broadly, and that is going to be good for business, particularly investment from abroad.
Right. Mr. Hyder, let me ask you now about India. At a time when you continue to grapple with uncertainty with the United States, and it's not just US and Canada, they have been threatening, they have imposed tariffs on almost 25 to 30 other countries. They are negotiating trade deals, but we're going to see a lot of uncertainty around the world, and all the supply chains are intertwined together. Now, in these circumstances, how important is it for India and Canada to revive trade ties?
It's a great question. I mean, look, the mantra of Prime Minister Carney from his arrival has been, and really responding to the needs of Canadians, to say we shall no longer allow ourselves to be beholden as much as we are to a single economy. So it's time to diversify. And obviously, there's a lot of places to do that. Prime Minister has spoken quite a bit about traditional ties with Europe. We in the business community are saying, let's look to Asia. Let's look here, right here in India, more broadly, China, Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia. The list goes on, Japan, Korea, of economies that are growing, of economies that are investing, of economies that consist of young people, great talent, many of which need the very resources that Canada has. In my short time here already, and with the full week ahead of me, I've already heard so much about critical minerals, about energy, and about the talent that's available here for technology businesses and others. So there's a complementary nature of our economies, and I think it's an opportunity to create more bilateral relationships economically and invest. With or without a trade deal, we've been able to do that. But the important thing is to get that dynamic of the political issues out of the way so that we can proceed with confidence.
Right. Now, after a 21-month pause for almost 2 years, we had seen an all-time low because of the killing of a Sikh activist. It seems that both countries are trying to put this behind them. Now, when it comes to reviving the FTA talks, what is happening now? When do you expect the talks to resume? And are both sides putting some sort of a timeline as to when to conclude this?
Yeah. Well, look, first of all, that process is going to continue, from a judicial perspective, and it will run its course. We're both democracies. We both believe in the rule of law, and we will leave that to that lane, if we will. What we know is our governments, going back 21 months, said, look, this is an issue that is political in nature, diplomatic in nature, but we don't want it to upset the business-to-business relationships that have taken place with India and Canada going back decades. So please continue doing what you're doing, and that is exactly what has happened, and we've been able to kind of separate church and state, if you will, to some extent, and businesses have continued to invest. We've continued to look to India. We know that there was progress being made on the so-called early progress trade agreement of some sort put forth by Minister Piyush Goyal, who's, I think, someone who's trying to champion creating infrastructure from a trade architecture perspective that would create predictability and certainty. But the reality is that's not imminent. We feel the first thing that's going to take place is to get in place our high commissioners. Neither country has a high commissioner in the capital. We need that. It will allow for the high commissions to be set up, our trade commissioner services on both sides to be there, our political and economic divisions to be able to do the good work that diplomats need to do during good times and some challenging times. That will bring about, I think, a sense of like, okay, they were returning to some regularly scheduled programming here. Perhaps that will lead to the beginning of some renewed talks, maybe even picking up where we last left off. But it's not something that business is waiting for. What we're saying is create the stability here from a political and economic perspective, allow us to continue to do business. I'm hoping to be returning early in the new year with a delegation of CEOs to continue to deepen our relationships, because business is, of course, very personal, and it is about those friendships and relationships, and we want to make sure that whatever takes place in this lane doesn't obstruct the progress that we're making together in the interests of not just our businesses, but frankly, the society and the employees and the jobs and our economies that benefit from that.
Right. Mr. Hyder, when it comes to increasing business ties or increasing investments, are there certain sectors where you believe that Canadian pension funds, Canadian businesses are keen on investing in India? Would there be investments that you're expecting to happen in a time span of 12 to 24 months?
Yeah, well, I think infrastructure is the lowest hanging fruit. I mean, India is certainly on the move. It is looking to continue to build the infrastructure that's necessary, economic infrastructure, to be able to keep up with the growth, the pace of growth. I mean, it is the envy of the world in many ways, the amount of GDP growth that you're having here. And so a lot of things have to be built. Canadian engineering, Canadian know-how, Canadian technology, including in transportation and beyond, is certainly something that is an attractive opportunity in the short term. We continue to invest in services here in India. Some of our larger financial services companies are here. But as I mentioned, you have need for critical minerals, you have need for energy, and I would encourage Indian business community as well to take another look at the opportunities in Canada to invest in mining, to invest in getting access to LNG, something that would help you with your pollution and climate issues here in India. So as I mentioned, there's a real complementary nature to our relationship. And in the coming months and years, there'll be a great opportunity to reset and relaunch what has historically been a very positive, productive relationship that works for both sides.
Right. Over the last 2 years, when we saw our relationship hitting an all-time low, did Canadian investors, pension funds change their view on India, or do you feel that those investments continue to grow and they remain more bullish about India's future?
Well, look, obviously the allegations that were made were serious, and I think everybody reflected on the severity of those allegations and recognized that whether it's in the United States or in Canada, there's a process legally that will run its course. But with the encouragement of both of our governments and the support of both of our governments, we were told to continue to look at the respective markets, continue the business relationships, continue to see the investment opportunities. That has happened. So I think that you will see that if you look back at the evidence, there wasn't really a dramatic dip. We were able to maintain and sustain the bilateral economic opportunities that exist. I think more can be done, frankly, from the Indian side in Canada. And obviously with the changes that are taking place in your own relationship with the United States, you might want to look at the opportunities Canada represents as a very reliable hub. It's not a country of 40 million. It's really a country of 1.5 billion when you consider we have access to over 51 countries with the 15 trading agreements that we have, and so much of the world wants what we have, and so Indian investment is welcome there. Here, our pension funds, our engineering funds, companies, and many others, including in financial services, have been actively engaged in India and continue to be bullish on it. To answer your question bluntly, why wouldn't we be? Just take a look at the growth that's taking place here, the support of the federal government and the state governments here to encourage investment and to bring about deregulation and competitiveness. Everybody can do better. We're always having something that we can say, you need to do better here, and there's certainly the opportunity building a trade agreement would be helpful in the long run. But for now, I think many people remain very bullish on what is going on in India and want to be a part of it.
All right, Mr. Hyder, thank you so much for joining us. Hope you have a good trip, and let's hope we have some good news in terms of revival of diplomatic ties and trade ties in the coming months, and also some clarity on the early trade agreement as well.